bounced out again. Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. You're joining us today for Cultivating Voices live poetry for our Sunday, and for some folks it may be Monday, who are listening on Facebook, our weekly gathering where we bring together folks literally from across all time zones to share poetry and be in community with each other. Today's feature here on Cultivating Voices live poetry is our wild card open mic. And in the wild card format, it's exactly as it sounds. We have 12 readers who will be reading for 5 minutes apiece, randomly signed up and selected and not selected, randomly signed up. And if we can get to our open mic, we will always hope and aspire to hear more voices if possible. I'm your host, Sandy Yannone. I'm joining you today from Olympia, Washington, and it's my genuine pleasure to have a great group of poets here live in the Zoom room. And as we know, a big wave and shout out to our friends who are watching over on Facebook as well. I want to encourage you all in this format to use the chat to send encouragement to the readers as you'll be hearing from them, as well as please, readers, if you've got a collection that's a collection that's out, please post where folks might be able to find your work and order your books. We are always interested in helping you promote your individual work as poets, as well as your presses who are publishing your books. There's no theme today, just your great poetry. When I was thinking about today's reading, I was thinking about really the responsibility of holding open a space for poets, and this week in particular. And we've been doing this now for over 2 years, almost every Sunday. And what an amazing thing it has been, and enriching for me as the host to be able to hear the work of the many of you who've been coming off and on over past 2 years. And I wanted to just say for really the most heartfelt thank you that I can offer, because it is no small thing to be able to deeply listen and be moved by the work that you choose to come and share. There's so many options that y'all have for readings. And I'm just grateful that you continue to return and share your work here on Cultivating Voices live poetry. Well, we're going to go first in the live open mic format today. A reminder, again, each poet has 5 minutes. I'll keep my comments to a very minimum. Is our wonderful friend, Anne McDonald. So glad to see you here today, and was reading in those early months when we started in Cultivating Voices live poetry. I hope you're very well, Anne, and I can't wait to hear what you have to share. And following Anne will be Mary Ellen Talley.
Thanks so much, Sandy. And it's just so lovely to log on and see all the familiar faces, even though there's thousands and thousands of miles, and sometimes only a couple of miles, dividing us. So I've been so sad I've missed a good few of these, and I'm so delighted to be back. I'm glad there's no theme, because they're two very different poems, but they're both new. Well, one started on Cultivating Voices, but this one is new, and it's one that's kind of close to my heart because it's called Losing Ada. And it's just two little things to explain. One is a kidóg, is the Irish word for a left-handed person, and it was literally beaten out of kids at school. And the marriage ban, I don't know if it applied in the States, but certainly here in Ireland, when you got married, if you worked in the civil service, you had to give up your job. So with that in mind, this is Losing Ada. She lost her figure by the time she found her life purpose. She'd already lost her confidence as a kidóg in a class full of right-handed children. Her virginity at 17 in a fumbling embrace she hardly remembered, and at 19 lost her mother to suicide, her neighbor's father to the neighbor's wife. She didn't know that when she got her first paycheck in a job she thought she had for life, that she would lose that too when she got married. She lost a baby when she was 35, caught for air with the cord around his neck. That was when she lost what little faith she had in God. She knew she mislaid her sanity for several years as a result. Then at 45, she lost all prospects of a night's sleep, woke up cold and sweat-soaked sheets, exhausted in the early mornings, and from then on, frequently lost her sense of direction. But at 45, she lost her inhibitions and took up naked sea swimming, and at 60, she lost sight of anything she used to think was important. At 65, she lost any notions that she needed to be anything to anybody when she found a lump that lost her right breast. At 75, she lost her best friend, which hurt her more than any other losses, her witness to the journey of her lifetime. And a year later, the neighbours knew she'd completely lost the run of herself when the husband died. She got new windows in and dyed her grey hair blue. At 80, any reason why she shouldn't have a Captain Morgan's for her dinner, or why she had a pale white half moon on her chest. And at 90, she lost any memories of having children, although two people came to visit a lot and called her mom. When she knew that she could lose nothing more, Ada closed her eyes and lost what she had heard of, but never really understood, as the good fight. Thank you. And this second poem started life in Cultivating Voices one winter's night 2 years ago. It was started a collaboration with a US poet that I met on Cultivating Voices, and it's morphed into something that I love now, and it's called I Wish I'd Known. I wish I'd known that it was written in the stars that I would come from a long line of Labour voters and men of the sea, fed on fish and cabbage grown in patches under nets to stop the caterpillars, and parsley for white sauce picked on Sunday mornings. I wish I'd known it was a gift to be from keepers of hens and pigs and greyhounds, walking dogs in winter's frosts, hand wrapped tight in leather leaves. The dogs too fast for my young legs, but too slow to win a race at Shelburne Park. Bellies full of soda bread fed by Gran from the kitchen window. She always said the greyhounds were too skinny. I wish I'd treasured starry nights when paper chains strung from ceilings every Christmas, and apples dunked in ice-cold water for Halloween, and attempts to say the family rosary every spring erupted into laughter on cold tiled floors. Young knees ached with needles and pins, the same knees later creaking in confession boxes making up sins. hoping for a few Hail Marys, but definitely not a decade of the Rosary. I wish I'd asked how it was that I came from a family of immaculate conceptions, because apparently I was found down the back of Granny's sofa and my sister in the aforementioned cabbage patch. And I really wish I'd asked what it said about where I grew up, that the door was always on the latch. And I wish to God I'd pressed between the covers of the book, shamrock picked from roadsides with bone-handled knives in March before walking to church to sing to St. Patrick, who was apparently glorious. I never understood the gift of water then, until the well that nearly killed our neighbour was dug in the back garden and without warning gushed to fill the hole, the ladder barely hauling Hughie out, emerging like Poseidon in rolled up shirt sleeves. I wish I'd known when I was young and angry at the world and all the things I came from and who it was that came before me, that it was written in the stars that I would come back here, grow my own parsley for white sauce and cabbages under nets to stop the caterpillars. I wish I'd known that it was written in the stars that I was always coming home. Thank you.
What a great start to the reading today. Thank you so much, Anne, and I'm delighted that you're here with us today. As I said, everybody, I'm trying to keep the comments to a minimum. Particularly, I want to get us to that waiting list of poets. So thank you again. And next we'll hear from Mary Ellen Talley. It's great to have you, of course, with us today. Another poet that's been listening and reading with us during almost the entire time we've been here on Cultivating Voices. And that'll be following Mary Ellen will be Ron Bremner.
Hello.
Hello.
Anyway, I'm Mary Ellen from Seattle, and I'm going to read two poems. One was in the Warrior Queen. It is called Answering the Call of the Morrigan, a Girl God anthology, edited by Trista Hendren, Jessica Johnson, and Pat Daly. And I inherit your name, Morrigan. And Morrigan is an fierce Irish goddess of mythology. I inherit your name, Morrigan. Oh, shapeshifter, crow shadow against full moon, death, oh, slumbering, waking. What is there about distortion? The chiaroscuro smudging that prepares us to wear long forgotten garments. How can she be both death and life? Her rough wool layers of flowing silk. Don't goddesses have to choose? Is she not temptress of contradictions? Fertility combines with fog. The crow is hiding in the dense black, but forgets about silence. I know the crone is coming back to trick me. Compassion is not her bailiwick. Her silence harsh, ink dark. If true, her breasts form hills of Kerry, and she is bird, then mountains fly upon the breeze, her silver beak, her lips. My conscientience disavows her blame. My sins are plenty. I want her story to bequeath healing. If I spell her name and drop R-I-G, dead in the middle, I see my maiden name. She is goddess of our family anger. We are three sisters, cacophony of outrage at our stumbling. Though her sister's trinity begot St. Patrick's that we adopted. I cannot refuse to juxtapose this goddess of my contradictions, request that she remain with me one night, as if upon the fog's low layer. She might wander off, retrieve my mother, father, sister, brother, through a corridor of messages, of which the sun is seeking. Past, before laurel, hawthorn, lilac bloom, she retreats into her shrine, this passage tomb, Newgrange, where I find my name, my sister's names, upon her lips. And second poem is in this issue of Rat's Ass, edited by Roderick Bates. Sonnet for a Tattoo Artist. Get thee on thy retro Harley, I pray thee glide miles and miles, despite the jarring wet roads, the fearsome westward end of day, when sun heads low, where you'll be merging, deer crossing roads at dusk. And if I dare announce my worry, asking you to text and briefly let us know your current where, while we wait as parents bred to listen for triple trill sparrow song come morning, lawnmowers, leaf blowers, drivers scurry, and scores of noisy neighbor kids playing away hours. We feign away our worry, soon hearing the rev under the sun blue sky. Our son is not a sonnet kind of guy. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing both of those, Mary Ellen. That ending is so great to that second poem. Thank you. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad that always in the live open mic, the wild card open mic, we truly get to hear so many different, the word for me is prismatic, so many angles into so many different topics and themes and approaches, and also structures for poems, forms. Oh, great to hear your work today. Thanks for being here. I hope to see you in person soon.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been too long. Well, we go next to another reader that we've had the pleasure to hear from often and never too often, Ron Bremner. And then we'll hear from my neighbor down the street, kind of literally, Thomas A. Thomas. Welcome, Ron. Good to see you today.
Hello all. Quick sound check. Am I okay or too loud or too
You're
soft?
fantastic. You sound
Okay.
great.
I'm very happy to announce that my 8th book of poems has just been published by Moonstone Arts. They are the Philadelphia bookstore and poetry center. It's a chapbook of erased poems, erasure poetry. And I erased poets like Nikki Giovanni, John Keats, William Butler Yeats, Sylvia Plath, Amiri Baraka, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to say that I have tremendous respect for all of these poets. There's no disrespect intended. So the first erased poem I'm going to read, The Erasure of Mothers by Nikki Giovanni. One of my all-time favorite poems, by the way. We kissed silence and read time. Living burns. Mommy always sat in the dark. I stumbled into the night because I had wet the bed. She was sitting on moonlight, diffused through thousands of people. She may have been a strong believer in the Samson myth and very black. I'm sure I remember a beautiful lady. She was very deliberately waiting for a poem the moon sees God. My son must learn to bear the pleasures as we have borne the pains. And the second erased poem that I'm going to read is If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep losing and blaming it on all men, if you can deal in lies or give way to hating and yet look wise, if you can dream and not hear the truth or watch your life broken, if you can lose your heart and nerve and sinew, if you can hurt all men, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. And the last erased poem is a very short one. It's an erasure of John Keats to a friend who sent me some roses. John Keats, by the way, unfortunately died at the age of 24. Fantastic poet in his years. I rambled in time. I saw a wild nature. I feasted on thought and truth. That's it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Ron. Congratulations on the 8th collection. And also, folks, if you're not familiar with John Keats, there's a really fantastic biopic film called Bright Star. I love this film about John Keats. It's maybe came out about 10 years ago, so I really recommend it. I'll put it in the chat for you all, and it would give you a beautiful introduction through film to learn about Keats and also to hear some of Keats's poetry. Thank you. And erasure poetry, I'm working on a collection myself that's utilizing that. So thanks for sharing. Well, we'll hear now from Thomas down the street here in Olympia. Got to see Thomas in person a few weeks ago, but always love to hear your poetry with us here on Cultivating Voices. Thank you, my friend. And then we will head over to the Dublin area to hear from Phil Lynch next.
Well, greetings from Squaxin Island territory, where I am a grateful guest again today. I'm going to move from erasure to ekphrastic, a couple of short ekphrastic poems from a workshop where we had the pleasure of looking at Alexis Roan Fancher photographs and responding to those. The first is called Rain in the Desert. Here in this foggy heat, lost and not hoping to be found, I'm alone, but not, as your shadow moves upon the wall. I want you like I always have, though I ran like I always have. Yet in this hot country of cactus and lost souls, your face floats above my lonely touching as I burn to see you look like rain again. So then the second one is called Was It Paris? 1970, from another photograph. Was it Paris, 1970? Perhaps further south, though the spring air was still cool in the pools of shadow, though certainly not where the young woman clasped her own hand between her thighs, perhaps with the last attempt at some semblance of control, as did her lover, soon to be, grasping her polka dot belt like a safety line, even as he sank beneath the waves of her kisses and the touch of her fingers on his thigh. And was I ever so young as that? In France, in spring, returning to that so wished for beauty waiting at our table? Was I ever so bold as that year, ever so blessed to be led to such a small room, such a narrow bed? Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. I'm glad we made that pivot from erasure to ekphrastic. And as I said, you all are joining us here on Cultivating Voices live open mic. Today's reading is our wild card, and our poets are stepping into that container beautifully for today. Next, we'll hear from Phil Lynch, followed by Linda Wlodyka.
Hi, Sandy and everyone. Good evening from Dublin. Haven't been on here for a while, so it was a spontaneous decision to come on this evening, and even more spontaneously decide what to read, because I've changed my mind since the broadcast started. But anyway, I decided I'd do this one. It's from my collection, Salmon collection in a Changing Light, and it's not very long, but it's one of my longer ones because I don't write long ones, and so it's an opportunity to read it, and it's called The Night of the Swallow. It's hard to say what it is about. I don't think I've ever fully understood it, even though I wrote it a long time ago. It started off as a would-be love poem and ended up being more about me and some self-pity going on and all that, and ended up with love lost at the end of it. So anyway, that's it. It's called The Night of the Swallow. She came as swallows might in the night, down from the mountain with heather in her hair. She was always there at sunset and at sunrise, with the splendor of both in her tender eyes. There's something sad about the world tonight. I understand the sky is void of light. They tell me that a man will come at dawn saying, "Wake, arise, behold, I am the sun." But they cannot understand that I am the one. When the snow comes, I will start to build a palace of ice, which will be until time's end. It will stand a monument to my memory, depicting, as monuments do, a cold and false resemblance. But for those that want to see, they will know that inside this iceberg are corridors and caverns full of all the warmth and beauty the world could need. Water lapped upon the shore. Tides of light rose before me. With a mighty surge, I climbed the highest peak and raised a flag, flying details of my life and the love which I had kept hidden from my lady of the summer. Turning away from the stage, my tears began to flow. Days later, I awoke in a strange room with a strange woman wandering around. Both of us had secrets which we did not talk about, though both of us confessed we must live at ease and not in doubt. But as in any revolution, the dream was clouded by continuing strife. I turned on a light and made some coffee. I could have walked along the canal, conjuring countless scenes in my mind, but I didn't. I went to the zoo and threw nuts to the monkeys. They threw them back. I went home, made more coffee, strong and black. There's something sad about the way I feel tonight. It's as if I could be a master at my art, but dark clouds obscure the canvas from my sight. The paint falls to the floor like a flightless dart. She came in the fall, but I knew her as spring as I walked through her fields, soft and green in the morning dew. She was summer as I swam in her sky of blue. But now I walk down stone grey streets with withering leaves blowing, chasing my feet. I wonder if it's time to go home. It's winter, it's cold, it's starting to snow. Soon all the streams will freeze and cease to flow. Evening fell as I stared, only to see veils of emptiness rising from my colorless TV. Even as the swallow flew, I too must be away. In time myself, so I'll just do, I think, one more very short one, and this one comes from recent publication, a very nice, a lovely publication called by Drawn to the Light Press, edited by Arla Shea. I don't know if you can see that very well there, but anyway, and it's a little poem in it, which I was delighted to have selected for it, and it's called Ask. If you don't know, ask those who have no money. Ask those who have no home. Ask those who have no jobs. Ask those who had to leave. Ask those who had to flee. Ask those with no voice. Ask the money makers. Ask all the politicians. Ask opinion shapers. Ask civil servants. Ask the teachers. Ask the clerics. Ask the street. Ask yourself. Ask. Thank you.
I'm glad you made the spontaneous choice tonight. And grateful that so many others of you made the choice to join us, whether it's evening, afternoon, morning, whatever time zones you're all gathering to participate in today's reading. Always a pleasure, Phil. Thank you so much. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing from our next reader, and we'll be hearing from Linda Wlodyka, and followed by Linda is Lesley Traynor.
Hello, everybody. Oh, I'm happy to be here. I've been on your web, your thread for so long, and anyhow, I'm glad I got onto this one, especially with a wild card. And I'm in Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, so the first one is Uprooted Persimmon. More than the silence, I ache for a whisper, wanting to know why all those turquoise bottles were packed in a box, too heavy to be moved, and why the linen napkins were now posing as packing material when they belong with fresh tablecloths and the shirt you wore when I saw you last year. More than the silence, I ache for an envelope, expressions of polite gratitude, a complimentary high five to your recent successes. But there were none to be had in a world so troubled by doubt, fear, anxious people wanting something to reach for besides another day of solitude, preferable to the loud screeching of tires that sped down the auto raceway 3 houses away. More than the silence, I ache for familiarity, the smell of clean laundry drying on the line, rose scents wafting across the meadow into a yard so bright with orange lilies and yellow sundrops, even a caravan of carnival actors could not appear this brilliant. Remembering a cascading waterfall coupled with our drenching hair last summer is all that I can fathom now. More than the silence, I ache for a small token, a shiny bauble like a crow would place by your door, a lost charm from a broken bracelet, the engraved message now worn, weathered, beaten down by time, hidden for years near a culvert where a young girl climbed off a young boy after kissing him on the mouth, snagging her wrist amongst the grapevines where lovers hide. More than the silence, I ache for the taste of luscious fruit, a riper than ripe peach, strawberries, sugared rhubarb, fresh mint, and the oolong tea leaves that you placed in my ceramic pitcher, iced to perfection like the cubes a bartender drops in a cocktail glass. I recall a $10 bill that was left on the bar the last time I saw you. You always a generous patron. I was already out the door, walking to a place that I call home, hoping you were in pursuit behind me. More than the silence, I ache for another page to turn. I read your stories, a familiar poem you finished for me when tears flowed down my cheek, landed against your forearm. Even now, you still blot the streaks of fluid that leave a salty streak against our flesh, your tender kiss like a tincture. This poem survives in all its first line repetition, like a cherished relic, a coveted object. If it were not for the uprooted persimmon, I'd call out your name in tongues. And the second one's really out there, quite different, and it's short. It's called Ether's Cobwebs. How intriguing your words appear. They form nuanced phrases, intentional enticements. A vortex spins your words into ether's cobwebs. I recognize that the words are yours when I drift nearby. Ether knows to reinterpret your words into an intricate language, one of hope, song, sun, moon, twinkling starlight. The strength of my soul echoes its response, a coherent transformation, an existential wonderment. I readily accept fantasy's invitation, time travel. I want to discover causation, explain anomalies, share it with you. One soul cannot endure this alone. We shall seize all challenges. Wrapped in silk, enveloped together, we travel unknown stratospheres. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda, and welcome. And I always like to remind folks that Kate Wegrerzin is the biggest fan of when we have someone come read with us for the first time. Even bigger fan than I am. So welcome to Cultivating Voices, and I look forward to the next time you get to
Thank
share
you.
your work with us. And
Welcome, Linda, my magpie friend.
Oh, hi. Kate and I were on another Zoom for many, many weeks, but then they didn't have it continue. So I'm glad to see a familiar face. And I think I saw Ron at one yesterday. So
Thanks
there are a
for
couple
showing up.
people.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Well, we move along to our next reader, and I'm very excited to be able to share, every name that I get to say every week, because it doesn't just represent a name, it represents your name and your being represented, a deep commitment to poetry for some of you for years and years and years. And so it's with great pleasure today that I get to say all of your names and the name next of Lesley Traynor. And Lesley will be followed by Gordon Ferris.
Thank you. I suppose what I'm going to read is connected by love and leaving. And the first one is called Blue Burning Driftwood. Hidden on a neuron of my long-term memory is a jewelry box that I rummage through, lifting, caressing thoughts of you that no one else will ever know. Your scent when you lay over me, lit by blue burning driftwood, strands of Viking blonde falling over me, falling through me. And your sky eyes tell me that which you can only say in another language, because to acknowledge love will break others, broke me on your leaving. I was invited to visit Milan to a stunning art gallery, the Pinacoteca di Brera, and I wrote some amazing ekphrastic poetry there. And most of the gallery is stunning frescoes, but there was a sculpture of Ophelia, Shakespeare's Ophelia, and she had drowned, and it was huge. It was by Arturo Martini. And next to it was a cabinet of little slithers of gold that were placed over the mouths of the dead. And I got this image of a very young couple. So this is called Cover My Mouth in Gold. Slip the gold from my finger, beat it smooth, not with grief, but to the rhythm of your heart, so that it may pulse against my lips. Remind me of when I laid my head against your moist skin afterwards. Scribe the surface with leaves of the yew, so that I may walk in the immortal wood. Feel the wind lift my hair, cooling, as you did afterwards. Cut the blue ribbon from my gown, weave it through the gold, my hair. Feel your touch once more, only once more. Then cover my mouth in sweet-tempered gold, its cool surface tracing the love I once smiled for you. Death will not pass these lips. I will wait until you come once more, lift my veil of gold, and join me for eternity.
Thank you so much, Lesley. Again, always grateful to hear your poems and have you with us today on this Sunday evening for you.
Thank
Early
you.
afternoon for me. Until next time. Well, I'm grateful to also now welcome Gordon Ferris, and Gordon will be followed by A Niles. Thanks for being here, Gordon.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to read a few poems about my daughter. It's a series of poems I'm trying to write about my daughter, so I'd like to read a few of them. The thing, she took ill about 12 years ago, where she had a brain tumor and had it removed, and it's come back twice over the last 12 years, where she had to have surgery. So this is a few poems about her experiences. First one is called Journey, and it's traveling in an ambulance from Sligo to Dublin for her to have her first surgery. Journey. From the rear of an ambulance, white lines rush by, left and right, illuminated crucifixes flash by and show themselves. She rises from her slumber, looks at me and asks, "Are you okay?" Lowers her head, smiles, closing her eyes again. Morning. Curtains float on billowing air. Sun rises to start this new day. Seagulls signaling their begging way. I watch you sleep and touch your hair. You won't show fear. You spare others being hurt. You ask after the dog. You disguise your pain. You let your eyes follow the voice. You must plan every step. You accept the damage is done. And the next one is called the Threshold. I wrote this last January after she'd been taken in, where her tumor came back and she was rushed again to have surgery. And during the surgery, we weren't allowed in because of the lockdown. So I might have read this here before. It's called The Threshold anyway. Watching specks of dust reaching for the light, I see my precious one can't even say goodnight. I recall her first waddling steps, her race across the sun-hardened garden. I now witness her cross the threshold to the place where demons go. 5 times we guided her, 5 times we took her home. This time there's a curse which has her enter alone without the forehead kiss and lie alone. Can I send you something thinner than thoughts, taking away your pain and fear and replanting them into me? Are you resting now, your eyes closed, dreams crossing the astral plane, to be watched over by loved ones and dry their fallen tears? And this last one is called Into Darkness. This is in her voice. I take the last steps as carefully as the first steps, each step thought about. I rise with the desire as if it's developed from rest and thought. Sometimes a desire abandons me. I don't want to rise, just want to lay here, listen to books as my eyes won't let me see the words. The sounds on the street, I don't know how near or far the cars are. The sound right beside me, are they going to hit me? The depth of my footfall, how high or low the path, am I walking into a hole? Is this sound that of the river flowing underfoot on the bridge? Will I walk into its water? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so, so much, Gordon. And I want to just acknowledge, you know, your experience with your family and your daughter, and glad you're able to bring those poems to us at Cultivating Voices. And been, ever since I've learned and you've shared the story, I've been holding you all in my thoughts, certainly. And I know many of us here in the room have, so thank you so much. Well, we move from Gordon to A Niles, who's all ready to go, and grateful to get to hear your work. And then we'll be hearing from Joanne James.
Thank you, Gordon. That's all I can say. The words just can't get it done.
Yeah.
I'd like to read 2 pieces today. The first is not mine. I did my first ever 30-30 challenge in April, and this poem was written by one of the participants, by Shauna Johnson, and I wish she could be here to read this because it sounds weird coming from me, but it needs to be heard, I think. The name of it is Drains. I remember a time when you were my daughter. I looked at your downy head fastened to me, a tender ache, a relentless tug. And I wondered if you too would one day gaze down, look down at a tiny head, feel an insatiable rosebud mouth drain you dry. Instead, 21 years later, I stand beside you and you are my son. We both gaze into the crimson depths of the hotel toilet bowl. I have emptied your drains for the first time. Since the surgeon made his football-shaped incisions and discarded the offending, unloved tissue. Hard to believe that was only this morning. You say, I need to sit down, Mom. I do too. Yes, I say, we're drained. You smile. I sit down beside you and hold your hand. That's Shauna Johnson's work, and I just think that should be everywhere. And now, something not so powerfully moving. This is mine. It's called Hands of Friendship, written 22 years ago for a friend of mine. These hands are held out to you, both full and empty, filled to capacity with loving offerings of friendship, yet spaciously awaiting that which you choose to place in them for safekeeping. In ultimate friendship, these hands stand ready to applaud your myriad accomplishments, to stir the pot of experience in your life's souffle, to tickle your fancy when in need of laughter, to strum. Stand willing to brush away the tears born of sadness and pain, to smooth the salve of love upon your wounds, to massage your feet made sore by life's arduous trek, to rend my garments as your sorrow becomes mine. These hands stand able to point out the direction if you lose your way, to drop anchor if you begin to drift off course, to steady you if you perchance you stumble, to brace you when you need support, to lift you up ere you happen to fall. These hands stand ready to polish your armor and bare your arms in demon battle, to unlock any cage that confines your soaring spirit, to catch you when your wings tire, to cradle your soul in its repose. These hands stand willing to place your crosses upon my back, to wield the scalpel against all cancerous growths, to scrub you clean of common or uncommon dirt. These hands stand able to block the way of unnecessary discomfort and suffering, to join the many hands that till your soil, to plant the fertile seeds of your perpetual blooming. These hands stand eager to light the spark of your freedom fire, to fan the flames of your life's passion. These hands tremble in anticipation of writing the ballad of your spirit's melody, of penning the many-volume saga of your storied odyssey, of raising you on high in your final triumph. And when you no longer have need of these hands, my eyes will regard them in wonder, marveling at the feats to which you have inspired them, relishing the indelible prints you have left on them. And I will be eternally grateful and greatly enhanced by your generous acceptance of that offered by these hands of friendship. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, TA. Just taking it in today. Everyone, again, we are here on Cultivating Voices, live poetry for our wild card open mic. Such a range of poetry that we've been listening to today. And we are starting to near the end of our featured open mic poets, and we will be getting to poets on the wait list, where I'll ask that you read one poem each for that in the next upcoming minutes. Well, now we will switch to Joanne James. So great to have you with us today, and followed by Cynthia Steele.
Hi, I've had to be up and down a lot. I've been so happy just to be here. My wife had knee replacement surgery, and I've been on call for 2 weeks. So I did get to sit down here, and I'll read two short poems. Well, I think they're short. She stood by the tub pouring champagne. This is when I risked everything, inviting her over when my husband went out. Splash, champagne, bubble bath. She poured some, had a drink and passed me the bottle. I never knew my life could hold so much champagne when I was naked and she was not. When she arrived, I said, I have to take a bath. So she followed me up the stairs. We had met 1 week before that. This is what dating looked like. It was February, a month of below 0 days, but my real life was unfurling and everything seemed possible. She'd sent me yellow, purple, white freesias after the first night of kissing and dancing. My husband said, "Where'd you get those flowers?" When I told him, he started laughing. "Oh, maybe I have competition." I didn't laugh. I didn't have skin. I was glowing. It was a gleam like wonder sheen, a green stem holding up a blown rose. There were salt and pepper shakers, matchsticks, blue speckled tin camping mugs to pack, but I left everything else behind. I left the Greeks and their riches, the appearances I'd made called daughter-in-law. My divorce lawyer said, "I have to advise you not to leave the state." I left the state. Tell me how to unlock everything in my possession, like a bullseye, a tornado, that twisted myth, that twisted dream. You know, I wouldn't change a thing, would run down a blind alley with you again, knowing there was no escape.
Thank you so much, Joanne. And
You're welcome.
I'm glad that you're able to come up for air from your caretaking, and my best.
Still writing. That is,
Indeed.
I think it keeps you going, right?
Yes.
Good to see everybody.
And good healing to all.
Thank you.
Good healing to all. Well, next we will hear from Cynthia Steele, looking for who she and Sandy Clevin have been taking the poetry circus. Now joining us from Spokane, but often joining us from Alaska and many other places. Yeah, there we are. So I'm glad the event went well.
Thank you.
Glad to have the opportunity, of course, always to hear your work today. And Cynthia will be followed by Rawle James.
Okay, I'm ready. We are going to do We Will Rave on Putin's Grave. This is based on signs and news. So the sign in red letters declares, "We will rave on Putin's grave." Another, "Close the sky over Ukraine." A young Audrey Hepburn lookalike sports a cream London fob, black glasses, sweater, tennis shoes. The only maskless person in the group. Brave, symbol of justice for young people facing this strange change. Different world, power shifts. Save Ukraine, save Mariupol. Mariupol, battered by airstrikes, maternity hospital, theater, art school, most homes leveled, thousands dead. Save generations from being extinguished. Putin declares, "Take Mariupol, bridge to Crimea, port city, stronghold of resistance. Take it and shape the war's narrative." Vladimir Zelensky, David against Putin. Ukrainian existence, punctuated by sirens. Take a stand, like Yuri at his terrace, each morning to see whose flag flies, whether the motherland monument has fallen. He remembers stories of grandparents fighting the Red Army years after World War II ended. Love and rage provide the strength to stay alive, to stay in Ukraine. What fresh hell will tomorrow bring? Awake to Kiev, half empty, where women sleep, huddling in a house cellar, men dead in battle. A small son hears muffled detonations in the distance. And I just have one more. Thank you. This one is to make my mark. I suffer from terminal uniqueness. Fingerprints are proof. I love the way those loops, whorls, and arches align on each finger. My type is the loop. One or more friction ridges enter on one side of the print, curve up and around and back down, then flow out the same side of the print. The loop is common. This must be, I thought, a mistake, but it is no matter now. I have sliced my loop finger to make blood sisters. Teresa Breckenridge and I joined blood forever, and me and Vava Mahoney too. And now I have no idea where they are. Two of my longest and very best friends. Teresa was the curly-haired dark to my straight blonde, the neighbor next door who lived in a ranch style. We lived in an up and down. I don't remember what her fingerprint style was, if I ever knew. 60 to 65% of the world have my same type loop. I loop around. If I liked a boy, I found something redeeming in him, or a friend, a girl, I would loop back around. If the relationship ended, I must have found something redeeming to begin with. Mama would say that ship has sailed. About old relationship, if it ended, it must be a reason, let it go. You probably made the right decision in the first place, but that's typically not how I think. I think our fingerprints touched with electric joy once, and there must be a reason we came together. To be friends, lovers, associates, perhaps the lesson is not over. I never knew how Mama could be so sure, but then she always had traveling shoes on. We never lived anywhere for long, so very brief encounters must have been a total lesson for her. I don't know if she ever thought about her fingerprints. My fingerprints are almost gone. These uniquely defining characteristics, many years of the life I've spent touching paper, touching people. I've been touched by people and paper, and even paper people and books, paper dolls, lined paper, notebook paper, copy paper, books upon books upon books. In Wasilla, at the public library as a kid, stealing into the roped off areas downstairs with forbidden books, sidetracking librarians with random tasks. I think there's water on the bathroom floor. I think, not there is, therefore not a lie. Being drawn to forbidden off-limits books, touching off-limits things. Maybe that's what burned off my fingerprints. I spent many years of my life touching paper, feeling smooth texture in various jobs. Over and over, I placed my fingertips gently down on cool glass because I have to have fingerprints taken, electric imaging for background check. A kind man trained on such tactical finesse guided me to do it correctly. Finally, he gave up. I guess that will have to do. Work with paper a lot, eh? I affirmed his diagnosis by looking at my non-ridged skin underside of my hands and seeing the pink turn into a lighter shade where the ridges should be. Yes, I answered, I have. No worries if I have no fingerprints to speak of, or if my fingerprints are quite common. The windows to the soul, my eyes are different from one another, and our eyes are unique. Our irises from one another. A curse to be a girl or a female, a woman, the bad luck on ships, to be the perishables producer, the server, the cook, the chief bottle washer, the wiper of other people's bottoms. I just pray that God in all his mercy would make me callous. Less weakness, more strength. I prayed nightly after yoga in my room alone in junior high, a skill I learned from a book brought home from a public library. No namaste in that white bread book, just me, a young girl, contorted breathing, deeply humming and ahming. I prayed for miraculous transformation. Instead of the cross, I wanted to be the arrow. Instead of a titter, I wanted to be a bellow. I wanted to throw my head back and laugh deeply, lean forward and clap my hands on my knees. I wanted to leave my mark. And now I find I have nothing left.
Thank you, Cynthia. And we now go to our final poet of our featured 5 minutes, dozen of poets. Our final poet for today before we move to our bonus round of the wild card open mic. We'll hear from now Rawle James, and then we'll move to the waiting list and hope we'll get in one poem from each of you. So get ready on deck, folks. Welcome, Rawle.
Excuse me. Thank you, Sandy. Blessing, fellow poets. Pleasure and an honor to be here today. I'm going to follow a couple other poets and recite about my daughter. Well, two of them anyway. My daughter passed back in March, and tomorrow would have been the 16th birthday. So in honor of her, I'll write a couple of pieces I wrote about her passing. Then I have another one that's hopefully about us on this planet, our humanity. This first one I call Because She's Gone. This nightmare is like a traffic jam. It's trying to catch a breath. It's walking into the unknown. It's knowing, but hoping you are wrong. It's a small, stuffy room in a hospital. It's the ear-piercing cry from mother. It's not knowing how to feel. It's a state of shock, not knowing what shock is. It's hearing the words, but not taking them in. It's watching my son stare into the daylight. It's not knowing how I will tell her older brother. It's watching her older brother break down. It's watching her Baba cry while being hospitable. It's being in a dream, but it's real. It's waiting, no, hoping you'll wake up. It's hearing the worst sound in the world, mother's pain from the loss of her child. It's listening to grandmothers consoling each other. It's knowing this is beyond surreal. It's asking, what effing plan? It's where in the plan is this madness? It's remembering to breathe. It's seeing you so still, head tilted like you're asleep. It's knowing you are at peace. It's not feeling Irie because she is gone. End of that poem. And this one I wrote actually the night after she passed. Still has no title. It rained the evening after you left, hard. It was a hard rain with angry winds on a stormy Toronto night. I stood in the shelter of the front porch in the numbness of collective sadness. It felt like a sign from you that you had gone home to recharge, awaiting the call back to the show and your next adventure. Despite the roaring winds in my ear, I could hear the wind chimes, angelic calm, along with the sound of waterfalls from the rain waters that flooded through gutted pipes. Many pools took form on the driveway as raindrops created the rhythmic ripples of tsunamis. The wind aggressively pushed the water across the blacktop like a child using the garden hose as a new toy. The collective madness of that moment matched the intensity and the magnitude of the past 24 hours. It was like he was saying, look, Dad, I'm okay and happy. I've let go of the hurt. I'm in pain no more. There was a calming surrealness to the moment as I stood arms wrapped around you in the storm of a Toronto night. End of poem. And then this last one I leave for all of us. Take with it what you will. In these crazy days of division, Black, white, left, right, Democrat, Republic, I really don't care. It's all nonsense. It's all to keep us divided. And a house divided cannot stand. So I leave this last poem as a reminder. It's called It Matters Not. It matters not that we walk together for me to love you, for my love reflects spirit. It matters not if you can see my love, for my love is the hope in us all. It matters not if you hear my love, for my love is the sound that echoes eternal life. It matters not if you can feel my love, for my love beats in the hearts of all. It matters not if you know the touch of my love, for my love is the inhaled breath that is life. It matters not if you know of my love, for my love lives now and in all the days to come. It matters not anything, for my love for you is everything. End of poem. Blessings and love to you all, poets.
Rawle James, everyone. Thank you so much. And I can't help but think there's a reason this particular constellation of poets came together today. Those fathers of you and your daughters, and to get to be in community with each other, and for us to all be the witness to that. And we'll be hearing a little bit from Billy Brown, who also joins your, I know joins a unique group of you. So folks, we are fortunate that we do have the time to go to our open mic bonus readings, one poem each. Ask like 2 to 3 minutes if at all possible, so that we can get everybody in on the waiting list. And we will begin our reading from the open mic waiting list today with Alexandra Psaropoulou. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here today.
Hello, thank you. I will, okay, I'm just going to share and hope that you can see. Can you see the graphics?
Yeah.
Okay. You can see the graphics going by?
Yep, they're going by.
Okay, I won't enlarge it because then they won't show. Okay, I'll just keep them at that size. I did this poem a very long time ago, but I'm doing it with the graphics. Okay. My visions are my torture. Turquoise visions, turquoise flying. For those whose hearts are not tired of sowing in the field of dreams. For the journey is bittersweet, half hurt, half tenderness, like thorny milk thistle, like sweet smelling jasmine, accepting variety and different behaviors, going beyond wrongdoings and right doings, into new and more thriving harvests. My visions are my scrambling ascent. My visions are my sacred conquest. Turquoise visions, turquoise flying. For those whose hearts can admire the phosphorescent hopes of the sunset. For the journey is rugged, half uphill, half downhill, like bare time in the winter cold, like bees gathering nectar from spring blossoms, evoking the rain's lament and the sun's caress, going beyond unpleasant and pleasant reactions, onto new and even higher peaks. My visions are my futile mirages. My visions are my sweetest oases. turquoise visions, turquoise flying. For those whose hearts are refreshing fountains of muses' songs. For the journey is uncharted, half tempest, half tranquility, like a wavy turbulent sea on a windy day, like crystal serene waters under the shimmering sun, sailing over low and high tides, going beyond traumatic and fond memories, into new and longed for harbors. My visions are my lightning duty. My visions are my radiant basking. Turquoise visions, turquoise flying. For those whose hearts shine brightly through storms. For the journey is evolving, half empirical, half innate. Seeing what I encounter, seeing what I know. Painting the world in dark and iridescent hues. Going beyond detrimental and beneficial beliefs. Into new and more exquisite rainbows. Our visions are our unmanifested ashes. Our visions are our golden wings. Golden visions, golden flying. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexandra, joining us from Greece with just, I want to let you know that is live music accompaniment, lest you did not know that. Fair, Alexandra's partner, thank you. Our visions are our golden wings. Those last lines. Thank you so much. Well, we move from those moving visions of Alexandra's from Greece back to Ireland, and we get to hear from Kathryn Ronan. I think you're joining us from Cork tonight, yes?
Yeah, West Cork. Yeah,
West
it's like
Cork. Then yes, we'll be specific. West Cork.
West Cork. It's like being at the Eurovision tonight. It's like absolutely fantastic. Can't choose the best poem, and it's a balm of poetry. That's what I'd say. And one of my favorite poems is The Thought Fox by Ted Hughes. And so Howl magazine is a new Irish magazine starting up, and today is the last day for submission. So I don't know if you can, like, if you've got any Irish links, you can submit to it. And so I submitted this poem. It's called Hot Fox, and it's for Ted Hughes. Hot Fox. Hot Fox has a cool night air about him as he wet noses and crumples his latest work, burying messages in cutlery as guests arrive with secrets. Cheeseboard is always a scream, as apricot is not a popular option. Brie and camembert of virgins take air in perfect tall hedges, many skirts marking territory. Hot Fox always returns beneath my sill, breathing new words, black and white partners to dawn, vowing to sow tomorrow new seed, falling asleep in the wind.
Thank you, Kathryn. And hopefully reading the poem today will bring you the blessing to have the poem accepted at the journal. Well, we now hear from a good friend down in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Billy Brown, a citizen of poetry in the state of New Mexico, has done so much for poetry, and always grateful to have you with us, Billy.
Thank you very much, Sandy. It's been several weeks and I'm very happy to be back. The first thing I want to say is to remind people that this is the first issue from March of our new Fixed and Free Poetry Quarterly. And this, which just arrived from the printers today, is our second issue, the June issue of Fixed and Free Poetry Quarterly. And I was going to read a poem by one of our features from who will feature on June 23rd, our next reading. But after Rawle's poem, first of all, I want to send him my tears of compassion. 1 second, just wait a minute. I have someone knocking on the door to receive a copy. I send my tears of compassion to Rawle. My daughter died 25 years ago in a car crash when she was 18. And I still miss her very much. And yet I have built in those 25 years a life of joy. And I hope the same for you, Rawle. I'm going to read a poem that's related to Elizabeth's death. It's called, Is There Any Difference? I wrote it at the World Trade Center in December of 2001, just a couple of months after September 11th. Is there any difference? Crashing, smashing steel, music of violent collisions, spurting, flowing blood, majesty of hemorrhaging wounds, streaming, splashing tears, moisture of eternal grief. Is the tragedy of these thousands any different from her tragedy? Is the desperation of these parents any different from her father's desperation? Is their ton of blood any different from her gallon? Their blood and hers are as one. Their desperation and mine are as one. Their tragedy and Elizabeth's are as one. One difference may be, I forgive and love Elizabeth's killer. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. And as I said in the chat, there's always a reason that the people who show up are supposed to be the people that are in the room to be able to speak, learn, commune, connect with each other. I'm really feeling that this afternoon so much. Afternoon for me, of course. And congrats on Fixed and Free, the second issue, more to come, of course. Well, we get to go back across the pond, as we like to say, and hear from our good friend Amy Berry this evening. And again, Amy's been reading with us off and on since the early days of Cultivating Voice, and it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. I'm always grateful.
Think she might not be here anymore.
Not here. I think she's not here. I think she wasn't able to stay, and I might have missed the message. Excuse me. Well, we'll get to now go to, thank you very much, my friends. Lenora Good is next, and then we will close out today. We will still get to go back over to Ireland to hear from Kathryn Crowley.
Can you all hear me?
Yep,
I have a short poem, so I'll make it brief. Alone. Alone on the patio dressed in denim. Alone, except for the bird who sings for me in the shrub. alone with the sun that warms the air, alone except for the breeze that caresses with cool and clouds, alone on the patio. I write and long for you. And that's after reading Amparo by Federica Garcia Lorca.
Thank you, Lenora. So
You're
good to
welcome,
hear from
Sandy.
you today. And so interesting also, and moving to have a number of you evoke the inspiration of other poets as well. Again, this is our wild card open mic, and what we get to hear in the wild card truly stirs the imagination and comes from so many different places and evokes many voices. Well, I think we're heading to Limerick, and Kathryn will correct me if you're in a different location, but so grand to have you and to get to hear your wonderful voice. I heard Kathryn for the very first time actually read her poetry in Limerick at the Hunt Museum on an afternoon in the summer, more than a few years ago now. So it's always good to reconnect, even through these screens. Welcome. And thanks for closing us out today.
Thanks, Sandy. The connection has been going all the time, so I love listening to you all. Is my sound okay?
You sound great.
You can hear me, okay. This is called Masquerading as Rocks from my chapbook. There's about 5 copies of these left. You probably can't see it. So if anyone wants to swap for their chapbook, I'll put my link in the chat box. Masquerading as Rocks. When all the world became still like a dog sick with mange, scratching a zillion fleas, Houdini trained and unreachable, your teeth chattered in the sun when nothing could warm you up. Your hopes became crocodiles that clamped the flesh of your dreams in their jaws until they tumbled from pylons to plunge into the river, and you, being way beyond shock, were the only one who could see them. Their eyes and ears faced the sky. They mirrored your own inertia, masquerading as rocks, while I was on the hill planting seeds, sunflowers among buttercups. You thought that nobody saw you and no one even cared. But then at sunset, the thrush sang and something in you stirred after eons of being locked in. The heat spread through your body like delicate climbing tendrils. And when the fire sun melted at the liquid edge of night, the crocs opened their mouths. Your dreams became fireflies and you knew peace. So keep inhaling the future and know that the flying sparks won't always perform acrobatics. We're fading, just like stars, swaying in the breeze like flowers. You fell down, you're alive, I see you. Sinead, that's it, Sandy. Thank you.
I couldn't have choreographed a better poem to end on than yours. You're alive, I see you. Oh, what a perfect ending to today's wild card open mic, where we've been in the company of each other, alive, evoking that, and also honoring those who have passed. Also other writers. We've heard in all different forms. But there's nothing more powerful than being in the witness of one another. And we've been in the witness across all time zones today. Thank you, Kathryn Crowley, for so movingly reminding us of that with the poem from your latest chapbook, and 5 copies left, my friends. It's a beautiful collection. I have it here in Olympia. Do take Kathryn up on the swap. Well, everyone, again, thank you. We honored our readers getting to the wait list. I thank Kim Ports Parsons for navigating the list and always encouraging us to get to, encouraging me to help move things along to get to that waiting list. And from today, we were able to hear at the top of the hour, we heard from Anne McDonald, followed by Mary Ellen Talley, Ron Bremner. We heard from Thomas, Phil Lynch, Linda Wlodyka, Lesley Traynor, Gordon Ferris, A Niles, Joanne James, Cynthia Steele. We closed the formal part of the wildcard open mic, Rawle James, and then our readers in the waiting list. And any day we get to go to bonus poetry in the wait list is a good day for me, where we heard and saw the visions and the live music of Alexandra Psaropoulou, Kathryn Ronan, Billy Brown, Lenora Good, and of course we closed with that wonderful poem from Kathryn Crowley. Thank you one and all for being here to read, as well as those of you who came to do the deepest of listening. I always like to invoke Michael Anthony Ingram and say quintessential listening. It's about the exchange between everyone. If you'd like to unmute and give a round of applause, this is a grand time to do so.
Brilliant poet. Well done.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for all your love,
Hey.
condolences, and kind words.
Yes,
Thank you.
we send our hearts out to all. There's a lot of, as I tend to say once a day at least, grief and joy are always holding hands. They are always holding hands.
Yep.
And to be in the presence, to be able to support and honor and share with one another is just a true gift. A true gift. I never take it for granted that you all come and share, and that I am the greatest beneficiary to be able to be here to listen. I'm very grateful. And I want to let you know that, of course, we'll be doing it again next week, next Sunday. Next Sunday and the following Sunday, we have 2 special events. Next Sunday is our reading in honor of Juneteenth. It is now a federal holiday in the United States that commemorates it goes back to 1863, when Abraham Lincoln acknowledged through the Emancipation Proclamation that our African-American brothers and sisters were freed. And it wasn't until a year later, Juneteenth is the celebration of when in Texas, a group heard almost a year later of that proclamation. And it has taken well over a century for us to acknowledge with a federal holiday. We will be gathering to acknowledge Juneteenth with featured readers and a shorter open mic to allow those of you to join us. Two folks that are here with us today will be two of those featured readers, Martina McGowan and Rawle James. And I thank you. I'm glad you'll both be with us next week. And you'll get to hear what they bring to the conversation, as well as other features. And again, we'll have some spaces for the open mic. On Sunday, the 26th, we will be having our third annual Poetry Pride Parade. So I hope that you'll be able to mark your Sundays for the next 2 weeks to be with us to acknowledge all the different ways our humanity tells its stories. And it has been an honor today here on Cultivating Voices to hear your stories and your poems as I look forward to every Sunday. Again, I want to send my heartiest of hearts of gratitude to Kim Ports Parsons and to Don Krieger. We couldn't have the operation. We couldn't be here every week without them. I wish you all a very safe, supportive week. Go gently through the week. Be safe out there. Take extremely good care of your beloveds in whatever way you spiritually, physically, emotionally are able. And of course, my friends, keep writing your remarkable poems. We'll gather next week, of course, to hear another gathering of them on our special Juneteenth. Our second, I should say our second annual, because we had an amazing reading last year with Kim Roberts, based on her anthology of poets inspired by Washington, D.C. It was a great historic reading, and I think I'll pull it up and repost it so you can see it during the week and get a sense of our reading for next week. Take good care, my friends, and be well the rest of this day, evening. Sweet dreams, sweet week. Again, keep writing. See you next time.